Hey, Randy Hunter here from beginningsax.com and randyhunterjazz.vhx.tv. I hope you'll visit my websites to learn more about my jazz improv and beginning sax lessons. Now, there you just heard me play a couple of licks from a Dexter Gordon solo on the tune You Stepped Out of a Dream. Now, before we go any farther, I'd like to thank Dexter for playing such beautiful lines, but I'd also like to thank a student of mine, John, for his work at transcribing this solo and also for studying in his lessons. We work together and study many of the licks that Dexter's done. Now, one of the things that we noticed about this lick is the similarities. So I want to play these two licks again, and I want you to listen very closely. I'm going to play them a little slower, and I want you to pick out the similarities. Okay, lick number one. Lick number two. Now, you very likely heard immediately the ending of the licks. They both end with. But in the second bar of the licks, the first one, the second bar of the second lick, they're almost identical with the exception of having an octave displacement in the second one. Now, for what really the purpose of our lesson here in this video is going to be to show you how to get more bang for your buck through the use of octave displacements or playing things in different registers on the instrument. Now, let's take a look at these licks by Dexter. And I'll show them both to you at the same time. You can see he starts both of them a little differently. He starts out the first one with just a minor 7 arpeggio. But then he's right into this descending scale line, descending bebop scale line. Now, if we look at the second one, we see it's got a little bit of a different starting point on it, but we notice we still have that same descending bebop scale line, the C sharp, the B, the A, the G sharp to the G. It's just displaced up an octave. So when we displace or when we do these octave displacements, often we are displacing a line, we're taking it out of its natural course. I mean, the natural course of this line is a descending course. So we're going to displace. Now, Dexter displaces the line on the syncopated parts of beat 1 and beat 3. In other words, he displaces on the end of beat 1 when he jumps to the high B, and then he displaces back down or returns to the natural course of the line on the middle B, which is on the end of beat 3. So our two licks, once again, lick number one. Lick number two. Now, these octave displacements that we're dealing with, and we'll call them octave displacements because generally they displace by an octave, but these octave displacements that we're dealing with do several things for us. First of all, they help us keep things within whatever range of our instrument we want to play in at the moment. Maybe we want to move our line up high. Maybe we want to stay in the middle of the instrument. Maybe we want to displace lower and have that kind of angle in our line. But you know, most importantly, they really give us a lot of bang for our practice room buck because we can take these ideas that we practice, these passages we practice, and learn how and when octave displacements might be most appropriate, how to work them into our practice, and ultimately how to work them into our playing so that we can create these really interesting angles in our lines and really just get that much more out of our practice room buck. You know, so let's take a look at another passage. This passage is really kind of a bebop style 2-5-1 because it's, and I call it a bebop style because it's based on some enclosures. Starts with an enclosure, it ends with an enclosure. Let's check out the line. So the way I've got it written at first. Now that line actually has a displacement in it. We're jumping from the third on beat 1 of the dominant chord up to the flat 9, the A flat. Now, I might play, maybe I'll displace the first portion of the line and put it up high. And then we have that flat 9 passage within kind of a natural descending context, the third to the flat 9 to the root to the 7. So one way of playing it. Another way of playing it. And yet another way of playing it. So there we put the displacement in a different place right there. So there we start the beginning of the line. Now I probably don't want to jump all the way down to a low B, although I might. But I might want to keep my passage in the middle of the instrument. So there I'm actually anticipating the C chord, the C major chord with the third, and I'm going to displace up. So three ways of playing the same vocabulary really give us three different sounds. And it really depends on where we place the displacements. Now, one thing that we're finding in common with each one of these displacements, one of the things that we're finding each one of these have in common is they come on the syncopated part of the beat. Now, I'm not going to tell you that displacements always have to occur in a syncopated position, but that's a great place to start. Now, the flat 9 on that dominant chord, that's a beautiful tone to displace to. Dexter in his lick earlier displaced to the natural 9 or the major 9 on a dominant chord. But we've got that we've got these displacements. All of them are coming on upbeats. On the end of beat 1, we're displacing up or we're playing it with direction. So we have an angular connection or a directional connection. Can go either way. On the and of beat 3 is the place where we placed our other displacement on the B. Or, and I think that one would be the natural course of the journey. That C is in the direction of the natural course of the line. So our C in the natural course would be a lower one, but we're going to displace upward. This technique can give you lots of material to work with your language skills. You know, you may be familiar with my lesson series called One Exercise All Chords. I kind of explore using octave displacements along with flat 9 type lines in that lesson series. So that might be a series you want to check out. And I'm also currently working on a series. I've got part 1 in this series on the beginning sax site, but it's also it's a series I'm really developing through my subscription site, randyhunterjazz.vhx.tv. So if you want to be a part of these series as they develop, you know, subscribing would be a great way for you to go. But the series I'm working on there is called Vocabulary, Licks, and Language. That'd be a great series for you to take some lines with and work with the octave displacements as you learn some of the licks that I cover in that series in different keys. Now I'm working on part 2 right now in that series, which is based on 2-5-1s. Perfect place to work on these. Let's look at one more lick. Now this is a very common sound, and this is a descending dominant flat 9 scale type line. Let's look for a couple of places in that line to put a displacement. So again, we want to think about the upbeats, and not every upbeat is going to be a great place to put an octave displacement, but many of them are. You know, let's look at the and of 1 in bar 1 of the G7 chord. So I've got E, E flat, D. And then I could potentially put an octave displacement on that high C, and it would serve as an upper neighbor at that point to the B, the descending, the third on that B7 chord is part of the descending motion. That's a pretty good sounding one, but really the one I really kind of gravitate to if I were playing this line would be the octave displacement on the end of beat 3, on the upbeat of beat 3, on that F natural in the G7 chord. I bet you've heard that one before. I mean, that's a pretty common sounding line. So all three of the lines, first, with no displacements. Now, with a displacement on the and of beat 1 on the dominant chord. And now with the final displacement we discussed. And I just love the way these displacements work. So many ways you can use them. You can use them in scale lines. They work very well in scale type lines, but they also work in arpeggiated lines often, lines based on arpeggios. But, that's all stuff for you to check out. You want to use your ear as you're working on these displacements to make sure it creates musical and logical sounds. And sometimes even illogical sounds can be resolved. So these octave displacements will really give you more bang for your buck with your vocabulary. Hey, now remember, visit my websites, beginningsax.com and randyhunterjazz.vhx.tv. I've got tons of jazz improv and beginning sax lessons there.